The sentencing hearings were very emotional. It was a long few days listening to all of the testimony and learning all of these new things about the moments leading up to the attack, during and after. What was it like for your family to be at those hearings and to be learning those things and see the end result?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of things were new words heard. There was a lot of unknowns at the time. I think even Janie told us some of the items that happened to her, but not fully, until then. And then, I wasn't in the courtroom at the time, but because I was still going to be testifying to some effect. But yeah, a lot of things were in awe of. Before the attack, of all the bites that the dogs had been already bitten somebody, knocked somebody down and biting them. Previous people that have already been attacked. So, some of it we knew, but not all of it. And some of the new footage of people being attacked by those same dogs. That was like, in shock, I guess I might say. Like, we didn't know about that.
After the sentencing, we talked about your family's reaction to the amount of time that they were given and their punishment. Now that they have moved forward with the appeal process, what has that been like for your family, knowing that they didn't agree with that and that they're now trying to lessen the sentence?
Well, we did talk about that, and we for some reason we think that was part of the plea deal, not to appeal. I don't know if that was. I'm not sure. I'm still kind of vague on that, whether, appealing the sentence was part of the plea deal. Like, we thought that was it, whatever sentence you get is what you get. And wasn't aware that they could appeal that sentence. We thought that was part of the plea deal, that you couldn't appeal it after being sentenced.
So you were surprised that they were able to
appeal it.
Now that process is going on and they're starting to file briefs about why the sentences should be lessened, what is your family's perspective on that? Do you feel that their sentences were fair, or should they be less?
Well, I thought that was fair. Knowing that the dogs that they really, knowing what type of dogs they had, and knowing the effect that it had on the community of that Depla Street. It wasn't their first bite. The people knew around that neighborhood those dogs were dangerous. So they knowingly had those dogs unsupervised, and they were able to get out of the fencing knowingly. So there's no ignorance to that. So I think it was a fair sentence. And I guess it sets a bar also for anybody else or anyone else, knowing that they have a dangerous dog and they have to really pay attention on their pets.
In some of their appeals filings, they are wanting to have more blame placed on the city. And the argument is essentially, well, if the city had taken those dogs away before this, then this never would have happened. In your mind, how much of this is the dog owners versus the city itself?
Well, I think the city does have a play in it, a part of it. I don't think they did any kind of, rechecks, or because they weren't considered dangerous dogs at the time. Mm-hmm. They weren't considered dangerous, dangerous dogs. So they had no recourse to come back and check on it, but they were already in their possession at least twice. So that should have triggered something beforehand, even though they weren't dangerous dogs. And like I said before, the dog owners knew those dogs they're biting people, and they should have got rid of them way before that. And they knew what the potential of those dogs could do.
Members of your family have another lawsuit now against the city of San Antonio in federal court. What do you hope comes from that in terms of change from the city?
The focus on dangerous dogs, the focus on loose pets, focus on education about responsible dog ownership. Like in the initial, I guess, last year, I saw a lot more advertisement of responsible dog ownership. Now it's kind of dwindled. It's not as prominent as it was before. I wish they would put more footage out for, ACS would put their commercials about being responsible dog ownerships and do more to educate the city of San Antonio.
In the last year, the city of San Antonio has passed some stricter consequences for irresponsible dog owners.
Mm-hmm.
The fine structure has gone up. If ACS captures a loose pet, they're able to spay or neuter it. And when you go to file that affidavit for an aggressive or a dangerous dog designation, you can have your name blocked from it.
Right.
So your neighbors may not be able to figure out who it is that
filed
filed it unless it goes further in the court process. What are your thoughts on those measures, and do you think that it's enough?
Well, it's a step in the right direction as far as the being penalized and having those dogs either spayed or neutered if they're not already, and then it'll be the cost of the owner. And the anonymous affidavits, that's a progress and a step forward. But like I was hearing during the court, like the state law says, it could be, the affidavit can be by anyone. It doesn't have to be a citizen. It could be the police officer, the firefighter, any official that was there on scene can make the affidavit. It doesn't say specifically a citizen. So that's why I think some of the verbiage seems to be, vague when they say, well, they didn't put an affidavit in. But it doesn't have to be a certain person. If there's a dog bite and there's a police report, the policeman can put that affidavit. It's any person. So, then you're taking the stress off the citizen if the policeman puts it, or the firefighter, or the ACS person. So that's one way to look at it that way,
And speaking of the affidavit process, a lot of that is dictated by state law. Representative Liz Campos has refiled the Ramon Najera Act this year. It passed. The governor vetoed it. There was actually a couple dangerous dog bills that have been filed this session. What do you hope to see this year from those bills?
Well, that's the same as what the city did. I hope it passes. There needs to be a little more stricter penalties. I mean, there's got to be another bar set. If is this going to happen? You're going to get fined. The affidavits, it's a good idea, and hopefully the citizen will do that if they see something aggressive of a dog, a dog that's roaming or your neighbor's pet, being aggressive. Hopefully that would happen.
We talked about this a little bit last year too, but what does justice look like for your family in this scenario, and do you feel that you have gotten that at this point?
Well, we've gotten justice on the physical part of it, the loss of a loved one. I think we've got some justice, but there was still two entities that were at fault. And I believe once the city sort of admits that it was their fault, like they should have took more measures to hold on to those dogs. And of all the dog, calls, the 911 calls that were sent to previous, for the 2 years before that, they knew that something was there, something was happening. There was too many calls to that street number. There should have been something done before that. And I think justice would be that, our city is a little bit safer with some of these laws that have been enacted and policies, city policies, that we are able to feel comfortable that we're going to walk outside and not get attacked by a vicious dog.
One of the justifications the governor used in vetoing the act the first time around was that penalties are already stiff enough and that the criminal justice system is doing its job. Obviously, here in San Antonio, we have seen a few more deaths because of dog attacks since 2023. What message do you think that sends to lawmakers and the governor about how widespread this issue really is?
Yeah, I guess death is like the ultimate, penalty, I guess, as far as the person owns the dog. That's a felony. Mm-hmm. But, most likely you're going to get more dog bites and bodily injuries from a dog. And, stiffening those penalties because, still, even if you get bit, that's a very traumatic thing for somebody. I know the deaths are really tragic, but I think the more the dog bites are more prominent than somebody getting killed. And I think, putting the penalties a little bit higher will keep, maybe hopefully it'll let dog owners know that, they gotta be responsible if they have a large breed dog, and I guess, train them properly. It's all about, how you bring them up.
We were talking about how it seems like just yesterday that this happened, even though it's now been 2 years. How is your family keeping your father's memory alive?
Well, like today, we went to go visit him at the cemetery the day of the incident, the fatal incident. I think about him every day, basically, what he would be doing. But I think he would be extremely proud of all of us, of standing up and voicing, what's wrong. And I think he would be proud of some of the city leaders. They've stepped up. I really, it takes government takes a little bit to start rolling on processes, but the city, council, they went and anonymously, did their policy changes, updates, and of course Liz Campos is now refiling her bill, and so there's the effort's still there. They haven't it's not gone under the rug. So I can say that that's progress in the right direction.
I think he would be proud of you guys too.
Yeah.
It's been really cool to watch you all in Austin and here advocating for stuff like that, because that's not easy. That doesn't come naturally to everybody.
No, yeah, I know. It's when it was going to the Senate, we were talking to the committee there, and the Whitmire was the committee chair at the time, and he said if he doesn't say yes or no, if he doesn't agree, then it stops there. So I pretty much had everybody calling over there, anybody I could think of, to call his office and say yes, I'm for this House bill, and it passed. I guess it worked. So the voice of the people is heard. And I can say firsthand that it did work. But ultimately it got killed or vetoed by the governor. So both houses agreed. There's got to be something done. So.
We'll be watching that to see what happens this time around as well.